weakness. It's a word that can very easily be misconstrued, misinterpreted, misunderstood, or simply used incorrectly or inappropriately for certain circumstances or with certain people. And over the years, I've found myself to have a very specific set of meaning that is derived from the word weakness as compared to what it can tend to fall into in the public sphere at times, where we have the typical example of vulnerability being conflated with weakness. Where in the reality, vulnerability is one of the greatest signs of strength that we can have in our lives. It's one of the best shows of virtue because it highlights the fact that an individual is able to confront things that is really troubling them, that is opening them up to potential further damage, which means that that individual must have a higher or a larger sense of resilience to be open to doing that. So that conflation is, I think, one of the biggest issues when we are talking about this idea of weakness. For me, when I sit down and reflect upon what that means for me, I've come to this. Staying weak will only make your life worse. And not only for yourself, but for those around you that need to pick up your slack. Whether it's a partner, a friend, a business colleague, let's say, or your family, anyone around you that you're interacting with. I think for the definition that I've come to for weakness, this idea of more basing it around incompetence or inability or incapability, I don't think any of those things are ideal or things that we should be proud to have. If that is something that is in your life that you can't change, then that is something that we can't really concern ourselves too much with because it's outside of our control. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's not something that we need to worry ourselves about. But if it's something that we could improve, if it's something that we feel we could be doing better on, but we simply are deciding not to, then I would urge you to put in a little bit more effort, to do things that you don't feel comfortable with, to embody a kind of individual or standard that gets you a little bit out of that comfort zone, that helps you to actualize your potential at a higher rate than you have otherwise been. I know for me, when I partake in that, when I do that, I practically always feel better as a result. Things in my life almost immediately get better as a result, even if it's not in, objective reality. My subjective experience of that life that I'm living at that time is far greater than it otherwise would have been, due to, I suppose, the contrast between me putting in my everything and doing more than I think I can, as compared to having stuff left in the tank, to know that I could be doing more and have more and be more, and not only, again, for myself, but for those around me. That's always going to be more fulfilling. That's always going to make you feel better at the end of the day, knowing that you gave something your all. And in my mind, for those individuals that try to use weakness as a virtue, I'm sure it's not a huge number of people, and I'm not trying to start any kind of conflicts here, but from my perspective, I would say that weakness is something that we want to do our best to eradicate within ourselves as much as possible, with the grain of salt that obviously one can go too far with trying to improve ourselves in potentially toxic ways that don't lead to sustainable habits, that don't lead to our character developing, but instead lead to these habits that aren't there to really serve us, but are instead there to serve our insecurities. So we've got to be very mindful of that. And that may be something that I have to do a longer video on in the future to highlight some of the potential pitfalls that can occur there. But for now, with the time constraints, that's what I want to leave you with today. Staying weak will only make your life worse. Not only in your experience of it and how you will go about your days, but for the people around you as well. So each day, when we have the option of choosing something that is going to highlight or embody our highest self, I feel like to an extent we have a moral obligation to do that for ourselves and for those around us. For the situations where it seems like things aren't going the way that we want to go, or that there is conflicts, there is problems, choosing the option that we decide in ourselves. This doesn't need to be anyone else's comparison back to us. This is simply the option we know in our own heads that is resembling a sense of strength and courage that we know we want to have, that we know we want to embody and represent. If we can make that choice towards that self that we know we can be, then I think that's one of the best first steps that we can take towards living a life that we can be proud of and having a sense of self that we can also be proud of too. So that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed any part of this, or you've enjoyed any of my other videos, then you may get some value and you may enjoy coming and joining us in the recently created Discord server. It's going to be the best place for us to interact, have a little more one-on-one feedback, and really just try to support each other on this journey of becoming our best selves. And if you're wanting to kind of come along as well and check out my kind of more daily movements and updates and different things that I'm doing on a more regular basis, then I'll also have my Instagram linked in the description as well. So, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for being here, and do more than you think you can.